Hey there, it's Lisa here, and I'm super glad to welcome you to today's live session. Today, I'm going to talk about methodology, and the reason I chose this topic is that in my previous live streams, many viewers, many of you who watched my previous live streams requested to dwell upon this point. So I decided that it's a great topic to discuss over this live session. And by the way, I am an online ESL teacher, so I always try to implement these teaching methodologies in my online ESL lessons. So everything I try to deliver via these live streams is actually based on my personal experience. I also try to find some useful tips on the internet. So it's not something super special or unique. Everything related to teaching methodology can be found in the free resources. So it's something to research easily in general. And this live session is supported by ITTT. We are a leading TEFL and TESOL training provider. So if you are interested in teaching English or traveling abroad, make sure you check out our content on Facebook or on YouTube, for example. And also, these live sessions take place twice a week. I go live every Tuesday, and my colleague Linda, she shares her personal experience and teaching experience every Friday. And by the way, she's based in South Korea. So if this destination is interesting to you, make sure you check out her content as well. And let's move on. Let me zoom in my screen. Yeah, so that you could see all the slides. So today's point is circled around CLIL, which is a really popular teaching methodology nowadays. And I believe that many of you have already been acquainted with this point. I'm also interested in implementing this methodology in online teaching. That is why I'd like to share like some examples of how to use it in online teaching. But in general, CLIL can be implemented in a real classroom as well. And actually, there are many schools which try to base their curriculum on this methodology. And it is still a great point to research because not all curriculums can correspond to the needs of this methodology. So let's move on. Let me change the slide quickly. So here you can see today's agenda. I hope that we will spend approximately 45 minutes on discussing all major points related to this methodology. So I will talk about like the definition of CLIL, what key points it consists of, and of course how to implement it in your classroom. All right, and just as a reminder, international TEFL and TESOL training is represented all over different social media. If you're interested in teaching and want to keep in touch with us, we try to share useful content over various social media. Feel free to scan the QR code right here and you will get into the website, and you will be able to find all the content right there. But feel free to follow us on your favorite social media as well. For example, on Instagram, we constantly share useful stories and stuff like that. So stay in touch with us. All right, so let's begin, and let's discuss CLIL as the most interesting methodology probably. And yeah, here you can see what it stands for. So it's content and language integrated learning. Oh, and by the way, guys, I forgot to mention that I always appreciate if you share some greetings or comments over the comments section. And if you see and hear me clearly, feel free to comment right now, like, because I'm basically speaking to myself, because I can't see anyone behind the camera. So if you support me a little bit, it should be awesome. Thanks a lot. And let's continue. So CLIL stands for Content and Language Integrated Learning. And it is where a subject is taught in the target language rather than the first language of the learners. In CLIL classes, tasks are designed to allow students to focus on and learn to use the new language as they learn the new subject content. For example, there are many bilingual schools where this approach is applied to teach math, geography, history, and various other subjects. So yeah, CLIL is an interesting technique, but it's rather challenging, and I'll explain why in the following slides. So now we're going to look at this methodology a little bit closer, and we will discuss first of all the perfect CLIL teacher persona, if I may put it like this. Then we will discuss the methodology itself, like what it is based on and stuff like that. And we will also look at some types of resources suitable for CLIL methodology, for the CLIL methodology. All right, hello guys. I can actually see your comments. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And yeah, I hope that you will love today's point. And if you have already implemented some parts of it in your English lessons, feel free to comment. I'm also curious about your experience in terms of methodology, so don't worry and share your experiences as well. Okay. All right, so the first problem which lies upon the surface, I should say, is some teachers' factors. So to begin with, it is really important to consider who is the most perfect person to teach using this CLIL methodology. And it is actually interesting for me, it was interesting to learn that here, while implementing CLIL, non-native teachers may succeed a little bit more in contrast with native English teachers. So it's actually a myth that native speakers make better CLIL. Make better CLIL teachers than non-native speakers. In many ways, sorry, in many ways, native speakers have challenges to teach CLIL, which non-native speakers do not. In most CLIL classrooms, the teacher speaks the same mother tongue as the children. And this can be a huge advantage, and it can be an equally large disadvantage as well. If the teacher doesn't know the language the children speak at home. So probably it's extremely important to be like bilingual somehow. For example, if you are a native speaker, a native English speaker, it's a great thing to be proficient in a second language if you work with a specific classroom where CLIL is implemented. Strategic use of the mother tongue should be encouraged in the CLIL classroom if it supports learners in developing the foreign language. Whatever the background of the teacher, they need to be able to moderate their language so that it is at the right input level for the learners they work with. And a native speaker speaking at full speed, using colloquialisms, slang, and cultural referencing can cause a lot of difficulties for CLIL learners. So this is probably why native English speakers sometimes are not the best. However, they might represent like the best example in terms of speaking. And for instance, when I taught in a bilingual classroom in China, native English teachers who didn't have a prior teaching training actually struggled in moderating their language to students' ability and needs. Okay, so this is why it is probably really important to make sure that you are able to correspond students' goals, and you can be on their level while teaching some specific points. And here in this slide, you can see that it is also important to at least address the B2 level when you teach using this methodology, because probably if you are like lower, if you are intermediate as a teacher, then you are probably not that flexible when doing your job. So it is still important to be advanced or even proficient in your English speaking skills and English in general. Okay, and let's move on to the methodology itself. So in short, CLIL classroom, CLIL classroom needs to be communicative, making use of lots of visuals, and embed the content in a form that learners can easily understand. It also needs to have learners collaborating as much as possible, and probably it's a great idea if it is challenging cognitively, and it is sequenced in a way that moves learners from cognitively less demanding and context embedded position through personal talk over the ideas on the more cognitively challenging and less context embedded public talk. and also to some writing activities as well. So CLIL methodology is the methodology to be implemented for all four skills, for all four language skills, which are speaking, writing, reading, and listening. So it's actually possible to adjust your teaching to all those four skills of using a language. Okay. All right. And when it comes to the resources, there are actually two main problems. First, the language demands of native speaking textbooks will be very high, not just the subject specific language, but also the general academic language, which has some hidden learning contexts and stuff like that. And this means that for CLIL classes, which with imported books, to be effective, the teacher needs to do a lot of adaptation, which itself is very time-consuming and energy-consuming. And here I actually have another example from my own English learning background. So when I studied at university, on the second year of studies, we had math analysis classes for half a year. And we were students from the linguistic department. So we didn't know anything about math at that time. I personally didn't like those classes at all because they were just not for me. I was a humanitarian, you know. And our teacher, he was from the IT department. He was super excited to learn students from the linguistic department. Plus, he was interested in English itself because he was learning English as well. So unconsciously, he chose the CLIL methodology, like the CLIL approach in his classes. And for some reason, probably there were no textbooks or no materials in English. So he decided to use authentic textbooks designed specifically for native English speaking students. So we, as students from the linguistics department, we failed to understand almost all directions he had or textbooks had. And it was a real challenge to go through the course because we couldn't understand anything, basically. So like, frankly speaking, if you are a subject teacher, which is actually normal when you implement like the CLIL methodology, it's super important to be trained in the CLIL approach as well, but not just in your subject matter. Because if you know the subject, it doesn't mean that you can actually explain it clearly in the target language. So that was probably the most important issue that my teacher had. So he was just a math teacher, but he wasn't a math teacher trained to teach using this CLIL methodology. So that was a real disaster, and I didn't like those lessons. And when it comes to another point, which is translated textbooks, well, still, translated textbooks can still be linguistically at too high a level for learners if they aren't moderated down to reach the learner's level. And they may have language which is sophisticated in the native language, but too simple in English. And what else? Oh, sorry. Let me think about it a little bit more. So translated textbooks can also exhibit other problems. They can be produced without any pictures or illustrations, presenting quite literally a textbook, which is a book of text. So for the CLIL methodology, it's super important that everything is supported by visual aids and clues so that students could comprehend the content easier. And based on everything that I have just mentioned, CLIL textbooks need to be written around a skill-based curriculum. So which is why I added this arrow to the task-based resources. So probably it is even better if a textbook is designed specifically for the CLIL methodology, for the CLIL classroom. And to exemplify this point, I'd like to mention that there are many online schools nowadays that invest in designing CLIL lessons from scratch. And for example, last year, I worked for such a school, and each fourth lesson of the curriculum was devoted to cross-cultural communication, where students learned about customs and traditions in other countries in English. So it was not a lesson based on English skills, but rather on understanding some other points, some other subjects with the means of like English language. So it was important to use some skills that students have already had and implement them when discussing some cultures and traditions. So that was pretty successful, I believe. I mean, the strategy of the online school was pretty successful, but I would say that their content was probably not the most beautiful and interesting as for me. But I think that my students who were like 7 or 8 years old, they actually enjoyed discussing those points. Okay, and let's move on to the CLIL lesson framework. So now we are going to dig a little bit deeper into how it is actually organized. And to begin with, this is the scheme which is like used when designing a typical CLIL lesson. And we've already discussed that in a CLIL classroom, it's actually important that language is used to learn as well as to communicate. And it is the subject matter which determines the language needed to learn. So basically, a CLIL lesson is therefore not a language lesson, neither is it a subject lesson transmitted in a foreign language. And according to the 4Cs curriculum, a successful CLIL lesson should combine elements of content, communication, cognition, and culture. So if a lesson contains these four key points, it is based on the CLIL lesson framework. And in many ways, a CLIL lesson is similar to an ELT integrated skill lessons, except that it includes exploration of language, and it is delivered by a teacher who is trained in the CLIL methodology. The lesson is based on materials directly related to a content-based subject. Both content and language are explored in a CLIL classroom. And the CLIL approach is not far removed from humanistic, communicative, and lexical approaches in ESL. And it aims to guide language processing and supports language production in the same way as it is done in the ESL courses, in the ESL course techniques. So basically, CLIL methodology helps to develop all four language skills, which are reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Yeah, so we've already discussed this lesson framework, but yeah, just let me comment on each point once again. So basically, a typical CLIL lesson might be based on a text. It can actually be either written or spoken. It may vary, so it depends on the context and on the content you offer to your students. So first, students are exposed to the text, then they dig deeper in understanding its structure, using some visual clues and maybe some graphs, charts, and so on. Later, they work on understanding and processing some possible linguistic devices, such as like lexical units and grammar. And finally, they are offered to produce a target language through various content-based activities. So in a nutshell, CLIL lessons are those lessons which are integrated in school curriculum, which means that teachers of English aren't supposed to put English on the first place. So teaching the language isn't actually the top priority. However, your English lessons still might contain some elements of the CLIL approach. And we've already discussed in the beginning that, well, in general, CLIL is implemented to teach various subjects at school. Like there are many schools which use this approach to teach some other subjects like geography or history, just using the means of this language. However, your ESL classes still can be based on the same methodology, and you actually may implement some techniques in your classes. And now I would like to show you like several examples of the lessons I created for my business English student. I actually didn't create the lessons itself. I used the ready-made materials, but I believe that they are actually corresponding the CLIL approach, and they are pretty successful because even my student mentioned that he enjoys that we not just learn the language, but we also learn some specific subjects he is interested in. So let me change the slide. I'm going to stop sharing my presentation, but I'm going to share my mirror with the student who I work with using this methodology. So I hope you can see it clear. So yeah, as I have already mentioned, I don't create lessons myself. Sometimes I do that, but it's really rare. I usually take some ready materials, and this resource, which is called ESL Brains, offers a lot of lessons, ready-made lessons, which actually are based on like partially based on the CLIL methodology. So just some as a background about my English, about my business English student. So he is preparing for an interview for like an IT developer position in the US. That is why he asked me to offer not just general English, but also English which can help him to go through the interview and also to like work efficient in this English environment. So this lesson was actually devoted to an elevator pitch. And first of all, we worked on this text. So as I've mentioned, the CLIL methodology is actually based on a text. It might be written or it might be spoken. So this lesson was based on the written text. And first, we worked with the text itself. We read about this elevator pitch and then worked with the structure and some unknown vocabulary. Then we discussed various parts of the elevator pitch and looked at some examples of elevator pitches from other people. And finally, we produced an elevator pitches ourselves. And my student actually enjoyed it so much. And at the end of the lesson, he said that this is just the best strategy, and he can not only use it as an elevator pitch, but he can also put this text in his LinkedIn account, in his LinkedIn profile. And yeah, I believe that such lessons which integrate some other subjects, and they are not just for the sake of learning English, they are just the most perfect lessons because they engage students at like 100%. Let me show you another example. This lesson, probably not this one. So here, this lesson, on the contrary, was based on the spoken text. So before we started, we talked about the subject itself. We discussed like LinkedIn, discussed some problems related to LinkedIn, and then we started working with the text itself. So it was like some there were some listening activities, and then worked with the text content and discussed various points related to the text itself. So this is the way you can integrate the CLIL methodology in your ESL classroom. And again, you can actually implement the CLIL methodology not just in your online lessons, but also in a real classroom. And for example, as part of my previous experience when I taught in China, I stayed in one and the same classroom. So I stayed with the same children during the day. And we actually used English to communicate. And we not only had those circle time activities, but where like it was supposed to learn English. But we also communicated in some daily occasions and some daily routines. And we also needed to use English as a tool to communicate, because basically I couldn't speak Chinese, but it was necessary to communicate with the kids. And with younger children, like with those who are 3 to 4 years, it was even easier to implement the methodology, because their mother tongue wasn't that developed yet. But and actually it was like a language exchange, because they taught me and I taught them. So that was another variation of how to use the CLIL methodology, I believe. And yeah, let me stop my screen sharing and find my presentation. Okay, so that was an example of the CLIL methodology. And if you liked the resource, let me just remind the name of the resource once again. It is called eslbrains.com. So I'm going to send it to the chat box so that you could search it. It's a really nice website and a great resource for students from the intermediate to advanced level. And it's actually for adults primarily, but with some students, with some teenage students, I also like to take some ready lessons, some ready-made lessons, because they are content-based and they are really interesting and engaging. So students can actually relate to the content. Sometimes books, course books, are not the best in terms of content. All right, so this is actually all which is related to today's point. And now let's have a quick Q&A session. So we are almost 40 minutes live, and this is the time, like the perfect time limit, because I mentioned that today's session is going to take place for 45 minutes approximately. Yeah, so if you're interested in different teaching methodologies and how to implement them in your classrooms, I just invite you to get TEFL certified. And if you scan this QR code, you will get a 30% discount of any ITTT TEFL courses. And if you guys have any questions or comments related to today's topic, which was CLIL, feel free to comment. And let me quickly look through the comments. And also let me share the direct link, which will also give you this 30% discount. So if you follow the link from the chat box, or if you scan the QR code, you will get the same 30% discount. Okay. And let's see the questions. Okay. All right, so Alexei wanted to take part in the live stream. He's our he's the fan probably because he comes to these live sessions regularly. But I hope he will watch the video later. All right. Yeah, thanks guys so much for sharing your feedback with me, because it's super important so that I could know that this content is relevant. And if you have any suggestion on the future topics, feel free to comment as well. If you are interested in some other methodologies, let me know. I'll try to create another live stream related to that point. Okay. Okay, so let me comment on this point. It wasn't related to the CLIL methodology, but it is related to the problem of teaching online, which I can actually correspond. So if you are worried that you're a non-native speaker and you want to work online, I can say that it is actually possible to work online as a non-native speaker as well. You don't have to be a native speaker and work online. Also, you don't have to be a native speaker to work abroad. It's possible to work as a non-native speaker as well. But you have to be proficient in English, like advanced or proficient. What else? You have to be TEFL certified, usually. Most schools, they actually require teachers to have this teaching training. So it's also vital. And another point is that to teach online, you can actually be self-employed. For example, I no longer work for online schools. I have my own business, I should say, because I work with students without any contractors, without any intermediates. So I just find students myself, and that's all. So basically, you don't have to be a native speaker. It's just a matter of how you position yourself on social media, or I don't know. If you're an online teacher, you have to find a way to promote yourself online. So as for me, I do it on social media, and I also have a nice network in my real life. So everybody knows that I am an English teacher and I work online, and they refer to their friends, and this is how I actually find my students. Sometimes I don't do anything to find students, and that's actually a great thing. So if you want to work online, there are actually many ways to find students, not just online schools. Okay. Hello, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad that you come, and I'm super excited to see that we are a global community, because there are people from all different parts of the world. And as for me, I'm actually based in Yekaterinburg, Russia. So I used to work in China, and then I came back to Russia and started my online business, online small business, I should say. So this is how I teach nowadays. And yeah, it's actually up to you. It's possible to find students in many ways. And if you want to find online platforms where to teach English, I had another online session, another live stream, where I talked all things about various teaching platforms. It is possible to work on teaching platforms if you're a non-native speaker, and if you want to learn more about those teaching platforms, just check out one of my previous live streams on the ITTT Facebook group, or otherwise just follow my group, follow my Facebook group, my personal Facebook group, or add me as a friend on Facebook, and I will send this live stream to your direct messages. So if you want to see the video about about teaching platforms or some other points related to teaching, just feel free to contact me, because I might have already done those live streams before. Also, if you have any questions related to TEFL teaching, methodology, online teaching, whatever, feel free to contact me. I am a friendly person. I love to communicate with you guys. So if you have any issues, any problems, feel free to DM me. I will try my best to help you, to guide you in this ESL teaching world. And I think that is the end of today's live stream. That was a really great live stream. I enjoyed communicating with you. Don't forget to follow ITTT on your favorite social media. If you want to get TEFL certified, scan this QR code or follow the link from the chat box. And I'll see you next week. If you still want to learn about something particular, suggest your topic, and I will try my best to create the most personalized presentation for you. Okay, and this is actually all for today. Have a great day. Have a great week. See you next time. Bye bye, guys. And if you have any feedback for me, please feel free to comment as well. Okay.